Now to an in-depth look at what it's like to be a member of not one, but two marginalized communities. This man, who is transgender, survived violence and threats in Mexico simply for being who he is. And that drove him to make a risky journey to New England amid one of the most divisive issues of our time, unauthorized immigration. He's sharing his rarely heard experiences exclusively with our Jack Thurston, who's bringing his story out of the shadows.
For Christian here, simple meals with friends and loved ones mark progress toward a long-held dream, joy in being himself.
For
as long as I can remember, I've known that I've been a man.
His transgender identity and why he came to the United States
I did experience violence.
may offer new insights into the experiences and motivations of some undocumented immigrants.
I crossed without authorization.
We've chosen to not use Christian's last name or reveal exactly where he lives and works, just in case he or his employer could face harassment. We will tell you Christian cares for newborn calves on a dairy farm in northern New England, where he says he feels far safer than in his native Mexico, where he worked for a wine cellar.
I had a lot of bad run-ins with people there, clients who would threaten me, who didn't like the way that I was. Before that, when I was living in Veracruz, I had a partner. We were together for 6 years, and her family never accepted our relationship, and I had threats from them, particularly her dad.
Even death threats, he says. Wanting an end to all that, to be able to date someone with less judgment, change his name hassle-free, and pursue gender-affirming medical care, Christian joined more than 40 migrants heading north from Mexico, subverting regular government channels to enter the U.S. Federal law enforcement then raided the home they all crammed into.
Of those 43, I was the only one who was released. In my hometown, they would say I was the lucky one.
Do you think that immigration officer let you stay because he was worried about your safety if you were sent back to Mexico?
That's the only answer that I can come up with, because I was the only person who was apprehended that day who was transgender.
There's many more undocumented transgender people in the U.S. than you might think.
Rodrigo Hang-Leitonen leads the National Center for Transgender Equality and estimates of the more than 250,000 undocumented LGBT+ immigrants in the U.S., up to 50,000 of them are trans.
But there might be thousands and thousands more who are just scared to come out of the shadows.
He says despite key contributions in sectors like agriculture, construction, food service, and hospitality, they often face big challenges like workplace intimidation, housing discrimination, and more.
Accessing basic healthcare services is a real struggle for a lot of undocumented transgender people throughout the United States.
Christian has a lawyer and a pending asylum application. To be clear, that allows him to lawfully stay in the U.S. for now and hold a work permit while his court case progresses. He's still in the shadows, though, unable to access many benefits, limited in his travel, and he says part of a farm worker community whose difficult labor often goes unrecognized. Still, he is where he wants to be.
I feel like I can be open about my identity. The way that I'm living here in this country, I wouldn't have been able to in Mexico. And so this has really been so important, and it's improved my life so much. I definitely wouldn't want to go back, and I would be afraid of violence if I did.
Here in Vermont, calls for more humane approaches to LGBT+ migration followed the death last year of farm worker Dervy Martinez. This is Martinez at a pride parade months before an arrest in rural northeastern Vermont on suspicion of drunk driving. The trans woman was then held in male detention facilities, according to advocates with the group Migrant Justice, who say Martinez was preparing an asylum claim describing fear of physical attacks in Mexico as a transgender person when Immigration and Customs Enforcement moved for deportation.
Our migrant workers are the heart of our farm.
Danielle Goodrich-Gingras was sad to learn her former employee died of COVID-19 following that removal from a comparatively healthier Vermont, remembering Martinez as kind and popular with coworkers. Goodrich-Gingras wants undocumented farmhands from Mexico or Central America, regardless of gender identity, to feel safe in barns and fields everywhere, calling them vital to feeding the nation.
We would not have a farm without them here. I think that the more these conversations happen, the more the public is aware that these people are essential to a food system.
Back on the different farm where he works, Christian tells us he feels a true sense of duty to the calves he looks after while he waits on his formal asylum request that's based on his experience as a transgender man. He's been waiting for more than 5 years.
It is also not uncommon for people to have cases that are ongoing for 6 to 7 years. That's just how backlogged the whole system is.
Erin Jacobson's an attorney with a legal clinic through Vermont Law School that offers free help to groups including asylum seekers. She says 1/10 of claims are related to applicants' sexual orientation or gender identity.
People like Christian are all around us.
She's not involved in Christian's case, but praises him for putting a face on one of many root causes driving migration, hoping under-discussed stories like his may spark new urgency in Washington to address asylum backlogs and to revisit humanitarian programs.
The very reason for people needing to flee their countries of origin because they can't be open and out safely lead to some reluctance or nervousness for those individuals to then want to tell their stories once they're here. And I hope that we can honor that with having really meaningful, permanent immigration reform that allows people like him to come here, be themselves, and seek a life here that's one of safety and security.
We're a nation of immigrants.
The longest-serving current U.S. Senator, Patrick Leahy, in 2013 championed a bill passing the Senate but not the House that would have created a tough but achievable pathway to citizenship for the estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants already in the country. The Democrat says for many, including LGBT+ asylum seekers, not being able to stay could have really serious consequences.
Maybe even death. I've been talking quietly with others, both on the Judiciary Committee, but among leadership in both parties, saying, listen, we got an overwhelming vote in the Senate last time. Why don't we try again and make these people really part of the community?
But Leahy knows to expect strong pushback from Senate Republicans on that committee.
The Biden border crisis keeps getting worse.
Ted Cruz, among those insisting the White House needs to do much, much more to ensure public safety and alleviate pressure along the southern border from waves of migrants.
It's less secure today than it was in December.
Who have been coming in record numbers throughout 2021.
There's no way in hell we can legalize anybody until we first understand the effect it would have on the border and whether or not it would incentivize further illegal immigration.
While clashes continue, advocates wish the focus could somehow stay on people over politics.
Thinking about immigration can sound like a thorny, complicated policy topic, and transgender rights can seem like a culture war. But really, these are human beings. Undocumented transgender people are people who have faced violence, who have faced persecution, who have oftentimes had to worry for their own lives. And all they want to do is come to the United States to feel safe and to be able to build a family and support themselves in their communities.
Christian's optimistic about his asylum application and hopes to even work toward U.S. citizenship. For now, he's proud to be closer to achieving that dream of happiness and authenticity, even if he still feels marginalized because of the combination of his gender identity and immigration status.
Our community still can't be totally open and can't live freely in the way that we want to. And I hope that one day we'll be able to achieve that and we'll be able to live totally freely in this country. I don't know how long it's going to take, and we have a saying that everything comes in due time. I hope it does.
So he can live both out of the closet and out of the shadows.
Todo tiene su tiempo.
And I hope it doesn't take too long.
In Burlington, Vermont, I'm Jack Thurston.